Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we are very much blessed. We have the blessings of His Grace Mahatma Prabhu, who is, I don't know how best to describe him, but I'm trying to be a devotee today because of partly of his help and guidance, even though I was very far away from him, but he's guided me in so many ways in my devotional life. And I'm so happy to have him here with us today. So Prabhuji is not new to our Sangha here. He's been here several times. And as always, this is your home, Prabhuji. So if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and then you will start speaking. And we welcome all the devotees on this platform also. Hare Krishna. Srimad Prabhu, I'm sorry, you are muted.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschachidastai. So you're going to put the verse on the screen, is that correct?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll chant the verse. I'll chant each line twice. So as long as you're muted, you can chant along the second time. Nayato nya shiva panta. Nayato nya shiva panta. Vishita samsrita viha. Vishita samsrita viha. Vasudeve Bhagavati. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. Nahyatonya Shiva Panta. Nahyatonya Shiva Panta. Vishita Samsrita Viha. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. We'll do one more time. Nahyatonya Shiva Panta. Nahyatonya Shiva Panta. Vishita Samsrita Viha. Vishita Samsrita Viha. Vasudeve Bhagavati. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. Bhakti Yoga Yato Bhavat. Word meanings? Na, never. He, certainly. Ataha, beyond this. Anyaha, any other. Shivaha, auspicious. Pantaha means. Vishataha, wandering. Sangsrita, in the material world. Iha, in this life. Vasudeve, unto Lord Vasudeva. Krishna, excuse me, unto Lord Vasudeva Krishna. Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead. Bhakti Yoga, direct devotional service. Yataha, wherein. Bhavet, may result in. Translation. For those who are wandering in the material universe, that's all of us, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than what is aimed at in the direct devotional service of Lord Kṛṣṇa. I'll read it again. For those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than what is aimed at in the direct devotional service of Lord Krishna. Purport. You can bring it up so. As will be clarified in the next verse, devotional service or direct bhakti yoga is the only absolute and auspicious means of deliverance from the grip of material existence. This is specifically referring to us in Kali Yuga. And, you know, we have this, I mean, as devotees, maybe it's not a problem, but people in general have this problem with the only way. But it's not really a problem because the only way is to love Krishna. However you end up loving Krishna, that's another thing, but that's the only way. So love is the only way. So we, you know, it's like saying the only way to go from where I live to New York is north. It's not wrong to say that because if I go south, I end up in Miami. If I go north long enough, I'll end up in New York. So it's not wrong to say that. And it's not wrong to say the only way is through love. You don't have to say only through bhakti, but yeah, you can say bhakti, but it can be practiced through other traditions. There are many indirect methods of deliverance from the clutches of material existence, but none of them is as easy and auspicious as bhakti yoga. The means of dhyana and yoga and other allied disciplines are not independent in delivering a performer. Such activities help one to reach the stage of bhakti yoga after many, many years. In other words, Prabhupada's saying, those jnana and yoga in and of themselves are not sufficient to get us out of the material world. They're sufficient, or they can bring us to the practice of bhakti, although we don't have to go through those paths to get to bhakti. Such activities help one to reach the stage of bhakti yoga after many, many years. In Bhagavad Gita 12:5, it is said that those who are attached to the impersonal feature of the Absolute are liable to many troubles in the pursuit of their desired goal. And the empiricist philosophers, searching after the absolute truth, realize the importance of Vasudeva realization as all in all after many births. As far as the yoga systems are concerned, it is also said in Bhagavad Gita 6:47 that amongst the mystics who pursue the absolute truth, the one who is always engaged, the service of the Lord is the greatest of all. And the last instruction in Bhagavad Gita 1866 advises fully surrendering unto the Lord, leaving aside all other engagements or different processes for self-realization and liberation from material bondage. And the purport of all Vedic literatures is to induce one to accept the transcendental loving service of the Lord by all means. As already explained in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, either direct bhakti yoga or the means which ultimately culminate in bhakti yoga without any tinge of fruitive activity constitute the highest form of religion. Everything else is simply a waste of time for the performer. Srila Sridhar Swami and all other acharyas like Jiva Goswami agree that bhakti yoga is not only easy, simple, natural, and free from trouble, but is the only source of happiness for the human being. So what this verse is saying, actually, if we just simplify it or cook it down to the most basic principle, is that religion means love, spiritual purity means love, and any kind of liberation that one gets without loving Krishna, it doesn't permanently situate one, because it doesn't situate one in your relationship with Krishna. It can't be permanent. That's the point. Because the only thing that will permanently liberate us is a relationship with Krishna. Without that relationship, then we have to come back, take another birth. I was listening to something this morning, Prabhupada said. I know it was kind of simple, but it was interesting. I don't know, I must be dull-brained. I never looked at it this way. But Prabhupada was talking about philosophy. He was talking about material progress, solutions to problems, politics, all the things that we're trying to, all the ways we're trying to progress in the material world. And he's saying that you may make so many adjustments, but there's a problem that all of you face, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's even talking about it. And it's that all of us will be forced to take another body. It's not like you go to the car dealer and pick the car you want, or decide not to buy a car and just take the bus. It doesn't happen like that. According to our actions, we're going to be the soul is going to be put in another body. It's going to be in some body somewhere, either in this world as a human and animal, or a liberated state, or in the spiritual world with Krishna. But Prabhupada's making the point that there's so much energy put into so many things in this world, and nobody realizes and nobody talks about the fact that you're all, in spite of all the control and the AI and the spaceships and the electric cars and whatever else we're going to invent, digital technology, in spite of all that control, everyone is going to be forced into another body and stuck and imprisoned like in a cell. If you look at the body like a prison, then we're all going to be imprisoned in another body. That's the culmination of our actions. Kind of, and so this verse is saying, okay, you want to get out of that? You can do yoga, you can cultivate knowledge, you can do meditation, you can do all these spiritual practices. Those practices are devoid of love. And because they're devoid of love, whatever freedom you get, whatever liberation you're going to get is temporary. Because unless you add bhakti to it, it's ultimately of no value. So as we said in the purport, Prabhupada said, those processes can bring you to bhakti. So in that sense, they're valuable. But if they don't bring you to bhakti, then whatever liberation you get, it'll be temporary, or whatever benefit you get may only be material. And secondly, as I said, by Mahaprabhu's mercy, you don't have to be a yogi or a jnani or a meditator to become a devotee. You just have to meet a pure devotee and be sincere, and then you get it. So I was listening to something this morning, and I don't know who said this, but I liked it. He said, you don't have to struggle to love God. You just have to remove the veil that's preventing you from loving God. So it's a beautiful concept, because that means love of Krishna is there within our heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. And you just remove the veil. And then once you remove the veil, there it is. It always was there. You just forgot to look there. It was so covered you didn't even know you had it. And just remove it. It's not like you have to go out and achieve it. You just have to remove it. Now, it kind of makes sense that people would do yoga, meditation, and other spiritual practices and not really come to the position of loving God, because we didn't come to the material world to love God. Raise your hand if you came here to love God. Raise your hand if you came here to be God. Yeah, that's more accurate, right? So the fact that someone would practice a yoga process to get some kind of power or some kind of benefit, and God would be important, but not that important, not important enough to dedicate my life to his service, it makes sense, because that's not our mission. if one is pious or philosophically inclined, they'll gravitate towards spirituality, but not necessarily gravitate towards love. Yesterday in class, we were talking about this, the difficulty in understanding what love of God is, because you can't understand it if there are no pure devotees to demonstrate it. So if the standard of religious leaders today, whatever that standard is, that's like as high as we understand spirituality. But when you have the residents of Vrindavan, especially the gopis, who manifest love that's beyond even anything we could conceive of, that Krishna's happiness, if my pain makes Krishna happy, that's my happiness. That's not something the average person can even understand. So, but we have that example, so then we can see, we're fortunate. Oh, this is what love of God looks like. And we are here practicing Krishna consciousness, and there's only one goal, and there's only one goal of our life. And if we don't hit this goal, we can consider our life, I don't want to say wasted because we're devotees, but in a sense wasted if I have to take birth again, because I die without loving Krishna, without being attached to Krishna. That's kind of a waste, don't you think? I mean, after all this trouble, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And if you start practicing bhakti when you're young, 20, 30, then you'll have, 50 years, maybe even more of your life, and you're to try to achieve something, and then you don't achieve it. That's kind of a waste. So, many, many times, Prabhupada said that only love of Krishna can satisfy you. You've probably all heard that, and we all know that. But I think some of us are afraid of it because we don't really believe love of Krishna will satisfy us, because we love other things, material things. And we think, well, those are the things that are going to satisfy us. And love of God is like, it's way at a distance. So I wanted to throw a little thought in your mind, which is I think very important to contemplate, because this is a problem a lot of devotees have. And I've spoken about the fears that we have, the fear of loving Krishna, because love means surrender. So there's this fear that surrounds surrender, that if I surrender, if I try to love Krishna, I'm going to lose something. There's going to be something that I'm going to give up, that I'm going to miss, or something I'm going to lack in my life. And I know why we think that, because we're not ready to be fully renounced. But being Krishna conscious doesn't mean we have to be fully renounced. It means we have to have a mind in which we see everything for Krishna's service, and then use it that way. But let's take this idea. If I try to love Krishna, or if I try to surrender to Krishna, there's some fear. What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm not happy? What if blank? And I think that's completely, not that I think it is completely backwards, because what we should be thinking is, what if I don't surrender to Krishna? Then what? But we're thinking, what if I surrender to Krishna? Then what? Well, what will happen? Oh no, maybe I can't handle it. It's like the roller coaster. What if I get to the top and then I realize I don't want to be up there? Well, it's too late now. The roller coaster, it's coming down. So there's that kind of thinking. What if I get up that high and I find, maybe I can't handle it. I can't handle loving Krishna. No, it doesn't work that way. So if you have any fear of what surrendering to Krishna, that it may be difficult, or that you may not be able to handle it, I just heard a word today. I think it's called pronoia. Instead of paranoia, it's called pronoia. And it's the opposite of paranoid. It's like everything's going to work out. There's nothing to fear. It's all going to go well. and paranoia is everything's not going to work out, and there's everything to fear. So we need pronoia for surrendering to Krishna and paranoia for not surrendering, right? What if I surrender to Krishna then? Yeah, well, what if you don't? What's going to happen to you if you don't? We're going to get forced in another body. And, according to our karma and desire, and we don't have a lot of choice. I mean, in the sense you could say you have choice by your actions and thoughts. But anyway, once you're in that body, then you're destined for so many years. And there's so many things that are destined once you're in that body. And that's a consequence of not surrendering to Krishna. So I think we should all be afraid of that. And in fact, in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada talks, or maybe you've heard this, Prabhupada say, my disciples are nice. They're very nice, but they have this problem. They're not afraid of Maya. Can you wait 1 second? I'm just going to open a window because it's supposed to be super hot now in Florida, but it rained and it's not. So I can get real air instead of fake air, like air conditioning. So give me a second. You've probably heard these songs. The acharyas sing, when will that day come when I'll be chanting Krishna's name and I'll be crying and I'll be in ecstasy and my voice faltering and hair standing on end. It's there in the Shashastakam also. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays that way as well. And you ever think, oh, when will that day come when I get the bigger house, the bigger car, the new job, the wife, the husband, that's naturally how we think, right? Of course, we need material things, but it doesn't matter how many material things you get, you'll always need more. That's just the nature of it. But the nature of bhakti is we're supposed to be hankering for higher stages of bhakti, not higher stages of material success. So there's something a little wrong with that picture because the goal is love of Krishna. And so, everything we do, it's just supposed to center on that. All our fears, as I said, should be, oh, what if I don't become Krishna conscious? Not like, what if I do and I can't handle it? All our hankerings should be for higher levels of bhakti. When will that day come? I was telling the devotees, I said, this morning I was chanting japa. And I was saying, I'm having a problem with my japa. I'm not crying. It's like after all these years, I'm chanting the holy name. I should be like fainting, right? Rolling on the floor. Shouldn't I? Shouldn't we all be like fainting and rolling on the floor? And then I said, oh, but I have an idea how to cry. Because crying when we chant, that is wanted. So then I thought, okay, I know how to cry when I chant. Because I'm chanting and not crying, I can cry that I'm not crying. At least that crying I can do. Right? I can cry that I can't cry. All right, at least some crying is there. So how we have, I'm just trying to explain that we have a lot of things backwards. Right? We cry when we lose something material, and we chant horrible rounds and we don't cry. It's like we have, our whole life is like backwards, right? We hanker for things and we don't hanker. We're not hankering, when will that day come when I cry? I'm just generalizing. You understand what I'm saying, right? So that verse, Bhagavatam, Shama Evahi Kevalam, like it's all useless without bhakti. It sounds like really heavy, doesn't it? It's just all useless. Your life is useless. What do you mean? I've got a nice house, nice job, I've got kids, car, properties, investments, nice furniture, big large screen TV, big position, and like, what do you mean my life's useless? Yes. without Krishna. And what will you be in your next life? A cockroach in your house? Yeah, that's why it's useless. So we don't see it that way. And of course, devotees are not going to become cockroaches, but Prabhupada said many, many, many times, kind of he made us feel like it's kind of like an advertisement. I come on Facebook and I say, stop what you're doing, listen to this ad. You're working like an ass. I can show you how to become a millionaire. You only have to work 1 hour a day. And it's easy. Anybody can do it. And let's say it's true. And if you don't do it, and you think, I don't know, I have to look at a computer for an hour, I'm not into that. And then you end up working 8 hours a day, at the post office or something. So that would be foolish. And I'd be there telling you, no, you're foolish. You just sit in your home for an hour a day. You juggle these things on your screen. You will make like $80,000 a month. You'll make $20,000 a week. You'll be a millionaire. And I'm telling you, and I've said, look at all these people here. There's thousands of them just like you, and they're doing it. And it's all true. And you don't do it. What would you call that if you didn't do it? What would you call yourself if you didn't do that? You pick the name. You call yourself whatever you want. But that's what Prabhupada is basically saying, in almost everything he says, every lecture, there's that theme woven through it. It's like, hello, what are you doing? You can love Krishna. Like, what else is important? There was once a commercial, and it was fun. It showed this couple, they were shopping, and they were looking at melons, and I don't know, they were shaking them, hitting them, smelling them to get the best melons. They're taking a lot of time, and it was I think a commercial was for some investment, and said, and the commercial was like, people spend a lot of time getting the perfect melon when they spend less time properly investing their money, something like that. It was just like to show, I'm an expert in melons, and this is really important. And I'm taking time when I'm shopping for the melon, to get the right melon. But I have all this money and I don't have any idea what to do with it, how to invest it, and so forth. So I think it's similar, like that. Prabhupada's mood is similar. Like you're doing so many things, you have so many things, you have so much energy, and you can have love of Godhead in one life, and maybe that's a good idea. What do you think? Is it a good idea? I think it's a good idea, yeah. Now, here's the problem. We have another problem. You all think it's a good idea, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? You're all smart enough to know it's a good idea. But knowing it's a good idea and manifesting it in your life is not the same thing. So we've got far enough to accept it's a good idea, but sometimes not far enough to apply it. So we want to make sure not only do we get this message in our heart, but we organize our life in a way that we can fully utilize it. And that's what Prabhupada wants. And that's what will make Prabhupada happy. And if you ever think, oh, how could I actually make Prabhupada happy? I'm like nobody. Maybe if I distribute his books, he'll be happy. Maybe if I offer something to my deities with devotion, he'll be happy. Maybe if I tell someone about Krishna, I'll be happy. Yes, yes, yes to all of that. But the thing that'll make Prabhupada most happy is if we take advantage of what he's given us. That will make him most happy. And I think you can understand that. If you had something valuable and you were giving it out and people were using it, wouldn't that make you happy? Yeah, let's say, the middle of the pandemic and your brother discovers the cure for COVID or the prevention, and it's all natural and healthy. and you go out and give it to people and people think you're nuts. And you watch people, you give them the pills and say, you just take this, you won't get COVID. And they're thinking, who is this crazy guy? And you watch them throw it in the trash, right? And then, the pandemic is raging. Hundreds of thousands of people are getting sick. Thousands of people are dying. You're giving out the what will cure them or protect them, and you're watching them throw it in the trash. How would you feel? So that's how Prabhupada feels when he sees us wasting our life away, when he's coming to give Krishna consciousness. And it's frustrating for him because there's nothing he can do. He can only give it to us, but he can't do anything beyond that. He can pray for us. He can beg us. He can write 100 books, but he can't actually get us to take it. We have to do that. You always say, give me blessings. Yeah, well, sometimes blessings is like, it's like it comes from a very weak position. Like, I can't do this, so I need blessings. All right, there, that understanding is there, but Prabhupada's saying, do it. Here, do it. So at least do that, what he says. Right? Now, sometimes people say, well, how can you practice bhakti your whole life? How do you do that? And when I hear that question, I always think, I understand where the question's coming from, but I always think, how could you not do that? Like, what kind of question is that? Like, why would you not want to do that? Like, why would you be so foolish as to not want to do it? It's like someone asks you a question. I just wanted to know, when you have a big bowl of ice cream, I've heard you've been eating ice cream once a week for your whole life. How do you do that? Like, what kind of question is that? What would you think if someone asked you that question? What do you mean, how do I eat ice cream? What are you talking about? So, how could I not eat it? It's so good. So you have bhakti. How do I do bhakti my whole life without being swayed by maya? How can you not do it? Are we that stupid that we wouldn't do it? I hope not. Yeah. Now, I was thinking of an example this morning. For the last few days, I'm thinking of this example. And I mentioned it I believe I mentioned it previously. I'll mention it maybe in a slightly different context. If you, well, let's say you had a disease and the doctor said you have some kind of cold or congestion. The doctor said, you just have to stay warm. And if you just stay warm, you'll be cured. That's all you have to do, is stay warm and don't exert yourself. Just take it easy. That's all you have to do. Like, okay. So I don't have to be smart. I don't have to be special. All I have to do is make sure I'm in a warm place, either outside, living in a warm part of the country, or if it's not warm outside, inside in front of the heater. That's all I have to do, and I'll get better. And if I don't do that, I'm not going to get better. I just have to be in front of heat. In the same way, all you have to do to be Krishna conscious is just to be in front of the heat of the processes of devotional service. That's all you have to do, and everything else will happen. Then if you move away from the heat, then the disease doesn't go away because it needs heat to cure it. So what is the heat? Proper chanting, reading Prabhupada's books, associating with the devotees, seeing the deity, worshiping the deity. If you just do that, that's like the heat in this example, that's the heat. And if you just do it, then it's going to work. In spite of wherever else you're at, it will work. And if you don't do it, All I can say to you is good luck. See you in the next life. That's it. You know, we say in America when you're with somebody or you meet somebody and you're parting, you'll say, see you around. I think hasta luego is the same thing, right? See you around, yeah. At least in Spanish, hasta luego. See you around, right? And so when we say see you around, what does that mean? If someone's not a hasta luego, if someone is not a devotee, what does it mean? See you in the next life, right? That's what it means. So if you stay in the fire of bhakti, somehow or other, just stay in the fire and it'll work. And if you don't stay in the fire, then hasta luego, see you around in the next body. It's so simple, isn't it? That's it. It's like you don't have to be special. You just have to, stay in the fire. The house, stay in the warm house, stay in the warm sun. You'll get cured. That's it. Now, there's one other thing I want to say, and then we can have some questions, because last time we had an hour and a half of questions or something like that, or more. I don't know if this discussion is going to stimulate that same kind of discussion. But now I forgot what I was going to say. Something about loving Krishna. Well, the good thing about loving Krishna is Krishna's lovable. He's the most lovable. You might say, well, it seems like he's hard to love, doesn't it? Like I'm trying to love him and I don't love him that much. And if he's so lovable, you could write a song to Krishna and say, you make it so hard to love you. Like, why is it so hard? And you're so beautiful and so lovable. Why is it so hard to love you? And that's why the Shastra says, be patient. Because as we gave that example, the love is there and the veil has to be removed. Well, there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers. So therefore, we're advised, be patient. Be patient with who? Be patient with yourself. Don't worry, just keep going. You ever wash a dirty pot and you never wash a pot where someone cooked rice and they forgot to take it off the stove after it was done? And the whole bottom of the pot has cooked on rice black. And it's your service to clean the pot. And if you've ever done that service and the rice is really burnt, you'll start to think, I don't think I'm going to get this pot clean. I mean, you probably start thinking, I need a Brillo pad I need a steel metal pad on the end of a drill so I could just go, or something, or, a stone, something to sharp that you would, like a stone, like it's so difficult. And so becoming Krishna conscious can seem like that. And so you're working on it like for 20, 30 minutes and it looks hopeless and you feel like giving up. And that's why Shastra says, and Rupa Goswami says, be patient, because just keep cleaning it. It's going to get there. You're going to get there. It's just going to take longer than you thought. Right? We have unrealistic expectations, most of us, about how long it's going to take to be Krishna conscious. We think it's going to happen faster. And if you want it to happen faster, it can, but then you have to be more diligent and more serious and more devoted. And most of us are not that serious and diligent and devoted that it can happen that fast. Because if we were of a different caliber and a different time period, when we learned about Krishna consciousness, we would just go home and chant all day on our beads. Basically, that's what we would do. Oh, this is it. It's the absolute truth. And we would just go home and chant 64 or 80 rounds or 180 or 96. I mean, that's what we would do. We would just like immediately do it. And then if you do that, yeah, you'll advance quickly. But we're not on that platform that we can do that. And so we're putting in this effort according to our abilities and conditioning, what we're able to do, 16 rounds, 4 principles, not 64 rounds or 128 rounds and 164 principles. Not like that. But if we could do that, we would see results much more rapidly. But the fact is we can't do that. And so we can't expect results to happen overnight. But they will happen. We just have to be patient. Because when we lose patience, we lose enthusiasm, we become negative, discouraged, and then we don't try, and then everything becomes difficult. Right? Have you done that before? Okay, here's a warning. See my t-shirt? Say no to Maya. What are you going to say no to? Can you see that? Or is it backwards? Yeah, it's okay.
No,
Like, what are you going to say no to? She's going to say so many things to you. It's not like she's going to say one thing. She's going to say, Krishna consciousness is too difficult. She's going to say, you're too fallen. You're not going to be able to do it. She's going to say, are you an idiot for doing this? Like, nobody does this. She's going to say, are you crazy? You actually believe in this? Like, Lord Brahma has 4 heads. You actually believe that? She's going to say, you sure Prabhupada is the real thing? You know, he's not just some ordinary person. She's got a whole list of things she's going to say, right? So the less we listen to that, and the more we properly execute our bhakti, then we're going to see results faster. Then we're going to start feeling inspiration, we're feeling detachment and so forth. That's just how it works. But I think a lot of the problem is that we're very conditioned, and our practice of Krishna consciousness and our level of surrender doesn't always correspond to the levels of purification we're expecting to happen with a practice that can't produce it as fast as we would want it to be. And that makes sense to you? You know, it's like, I want to work 1 hour a day and I want to be a millionaire. Well, most millionaires work about 16 hours a day. You know, if you want to be rich, you know, at least in the beginning, that's what you're going to have to do. So it's something like that, you know, okay, you want to be successful. Well, look at the average super successful guy, at least in America, or woman, is working about 70 to 80 hours a week. You want to do that? Because if you want that level of success, that's what you have to do. You say, no, I want that level of success with 40 hours. Well, maybe after some time when you become smart, or you have a smart teacher, you could do that. But for most people, no. You have to put in greater effort. Well, it's the same thing with Krishna consciousness, you know. We have to be patient because we all can't put in that effort. We're not there. But I have a question you can ask yourself. I think it's a beautiful question. This question just came to my mind recently. I was looking at my devotional service, looking at my sadhana. Then I asked myself a question. I said, if you were more advanced, what would you do? You know, I was thinking about my sadhana. I'm thinking, if you were more advanced, what would you do? What would your sadhana look like? Or what would your service look? What would anything look like if you were more advanced? And it's an amazing question to ask yourself. It's like, if I were more advanced, what would my japa look like? If I were more advanced, what would my morning look like? If I were more advanced, what would my service be? What would my day look like? If I were more advanced, what level of sense control would I have? And it's very easy to answer that question. If you just ask it to yourself, you'll start thinking, well, if I was more advanced, I would probably do this. And then the next question you ask yourself is, okay, should we do this? Is that a good idea? Of course, the answer is yes, it's a good idea, but whether you can do it or not, I don't know. But the question is, it's a great question. Try it out on yourself and see. Or you're like, it can be any situation where you maybe feeling the pushings and pullings of the modes of nature. And then you ask yourself, if I were more Krishna conscious, how would I deal with this right now? What would be my response? Or anything, temptation comes. If I were more Krishna conscious, how would I deal with this? What would I do right now? Or somebody gets upset with you and you're starting to boil and smoke is coming out of your ears and you're about to say something which you will definitely regret having said. But before you do, you ask yourself, if I were more Krishna conscious, what would I do right now? And you'll probably just go to your bead bag and start chanting rather than say something you'll have to take back later. So it's a simple question, but it's powerful. What do you think? You want to try it? If I were more Krishna conscious, what would I do? I'm even writing that down. You can write it down also. Basically, what it's doing is it's giving you an option to look at a situation that you may only be looking at one way, like, I don't know what to do. All I can, I'm going down and I don't know how to go any other way. It's giving you an option to stop, put on the brakes, think, contemplate. If I were more Krishna conscious, what other possible things could I do now? Because sometimes we can't see other possibilities. If I were more Krishna conscious, what would I do? Opens up possibilities. Well, I probably would stop thinking what I'm thinking or saying what I'm saying or doing what I'm doing. And I would say this, think that, or do this. So, in summary, what I'm saying is Prabhupada was appealing to us that you have something valuable, don't waste it. And you can do it. You can all do it. Don't ever think you can't do it. You can all do it. The only person who can't do it is the one who doesn't want to. But as long as you want to, you can do it. I was watching at the temple in the morning. They have video slideshows that you can watch while you're chanting. Sometimes on Krishna Lila and sometimes on Prabhupada. And it shows, I got attracted to it because it shows Prabhupada in one city, like all the photos of Prabhupada in one city. And the photos came up and it was Los Angeles when I was there, when Prabhupada was there. So immediately I was taken back into those times when I was with Prabhupada in Los Angeles, remembering them. And all I could think of the whole time I was chanting was how inspired everybody was. I was like, I don't know if I can explain it, but it was like everywhere you went, every devotee was on fire. So you go in the kitchen, they're on fire. You go to the Pujari department, they're on fire. The Sankirtan department, the Harinam department, the Mangalarti is on fire. The classes, everything was on fire. Everybody was on fire. It was like a disease, like everybody caught this disease. We were on fire. And of course, the average age of the leaders at that time was like 24 or something. When these pictures, well, depending on the year, 22 to 28. And they were doing so much. And the reason they were doing so much is because they were so inspired. So I was talking to a devotee yesterday from Holland, and Kadamakananda Swami asked me to help. So we were talking about some ideas for Holland. And then I said, the real thing is that devotees need to be inspired, and everything will come from that. It all comes from inspiration, right? So the best thing you can possibly do is just figure out how to be inspired. Whatever you have to do to figure it out, whatever you have to do to be inspired, just do it. Because when you're inspired, you're going to inspire other people. And when they're inspired, they're going to inspire other people, and things will just grow, and we'll have this very inspiring sangha of devotees who are, kind of, you could say, pretty much detached from materially progressing in any kind of significant way, and very attached to spreading Krishna consciousness, or very attached to being Krishna conscious. That's what we want to create. And if we create that, then the success, whatever your strategy is, the success will come because it's contagious. Anyone who comes in our sangha will just be drawn in by the sheer energy and happiness. So, Hare Krishna. That's it. That's all you get today. Now you can ask questions if you like. If there's no questions, we can all go to sleep. No. Prabhupada said, sometimes he'd see devotees and they're like idle. And he would say, don't just stand there. Do something, chant Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada would joke. He said, then when you get spare time, you utilize it very nicely by sleeping. Because Prabhupada would see that. Often devotees were sleeping. He didn't like that. Sleeping in the middle of the day, he didn't like that. Maybe a little nap is okay. Okay, we have a question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees. So we have a first question in the chat room from Nishta Bhakti Devi. Her question is, Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. How can we please Srila Prabhupada the most?
As I said, you please him the most by utilizing the gifts that he gave you. Like all those books Prabhupada gave? He's very, very pleased that you're reading them. If you wrote a book, Nishta Bhakti, and someone said, I'm reading your book, that would make you happy, wouldn't it? Yeah. And then they said, actually, I'm following everything in your book. I am the personification of your book. You'd be very happy, right? And you're not even their guru. What to speak if you're their guru and that's your job description, is to make them Krishna conscious, and they're doing everything that you ask them to do. So that kind of is a broad answer because it encompasses anything else you could do. But I will add some things that Prabhupada says that we should do, just to be more specific. Keep ISKCON together, work cooperatively, spread Krishna consciousness, and be Krishna conscious, and be happy in Krishna consciousness. If you find happiness in the process of bhakti, that makes Prabhupada happy, because Prabhupada came to make us happy with Krishna consciousness. So if you tell Prabhupada, this Krishna consciousness is making me very happy, and it's like, well, that was Prabhupada's mission. He's so happy to hear that. Like Nishta Bhakti, let's say you taught a course, and then people came to you and said, that course helped me so much. I'm so happy now. That would make you happy. So by being happy in Krishna consciousness, you're pleasing Prabhupada. Oh.
Well, thank you. I have one question. Lots of what you said today actually it's kind of about myself, because when I saw in front of your T-shirt, "Say no to Maya," I was contemplating on that. And when you were talking about fear of God and love of God, that most of us in ISKCON in particular, we love God, we do not fear God, but we are afraid of loving God. And that is my situation. I'm so much afraid of loving Krishna, in the sense that when I look and examine myself, I could do better than what I'm doing in terms of serving Guru and Krishna and devotees. But I've also experienced that almost each and every time I became very serious in my devotional service, that's the time I felt and experienced lots of difficulties.
Wow.
And it became so obvious up to a point that I even became fearful going on the altar, because anytime I did, to me, the littlest mistake, instantly I will get chastisement. And I will understand that I got this chastisement because I did this or I said that. Even when somebody did something to me that I wasn't happy with, and I was thinking about it in my head in a negative way, I get instant chastisement. So with all these things, it's become a little bit difficult for me to really go all out to love Krishna, because I'm very much fearful that the more I love him, the quickest I'm going to be chastised when I do or go wrong. So how do you help me in this difficult situation that I'm having?
Well, number one, of course, if we don't love Krishna, we're going to love something or somebody. So we can't escape that, right? And if you try to love a woman, she'll chastise you also. You have experience?
Yes.
Yeah, so those two things we can't escape. Loving someone, that's a natural propensity, and falling short in satisfying them completely, and they'll let you know it when you fall short. So you're looking at one side of, you're looking at the side of Krishna where he has to correct you. But there's also the side where he gave Putana the position of mother and she tried to kill him. So there's that side also. And ultimately, we shouldn't see both sides as different, because Krishna's trying to liberate you through whatever chastisements he needs to give you to help you. So he's trying to liberate you, right? So now what we want to try is to elevate ourselves to this difficult position of acknowledging the chastisements and the love as the same. That Krishna has no hatred or enmity within him. So every action that he engages in with his devotees is only actions of love. That's all it is. And they're all meant to help. But sometimes we have to go through painful situations to be helped. And that's how we learn. Right? You ever hear me say that the most liberated position I'm in is in the dentist chair? That's the point where I have the deepest contemplation of why was I so stupid to want to take this body, because this is like really painful here, or very uncomfortable. But it's good. It's good. Or if something difficult happens, like really difficult, really painful. What are you thinking? You're thinking, material life is horrible. Why was I so foolish to think I could be happy here. That's what we think, right? And the more painful it is, the more deeply we feel that foolishness. So it's necessary, so Krishna may do that. So I think you can think Krishna's doing that to me because I need it. He wouldn't do it to me if I didn't need it. And he's ready to offer me liberation. So we have to put everything in the context of love. We can't have Krishna's chastisements not be love. I think we can't have them be something else because they're not. Because there's no material quality in Krishna, so there's no hatred, there's no revenge, there's no envy, there's no need to get back, there's no desire he has to punish anybody to make him feel good. But that's only for their benefit, for our benefit. So, and then if we further progress in bhakti and say, well, Krishna, I give myself to you, and then you deal with me as you see fit. It's not up to me to judge how you deal with me. You've taken something away from me, whatever it is. You want me to still love you and have devotion to you and not think that, oh, what kind of God are you? You've forsaken me. So that's, I really see that as a Krishna's loving hand, just giving you a little slap. But it sounds like the way you described it, it was like a sledgehammer on your head. But it wasn't. It was just a loving slap. Hey, wake up! Like you're driving the car and you're falling asleep. If you were driving the car, honestly, this is what I would do, and you were falling asleep, I wouldn't just rub your back. I would hit you. Like, wake up! I would hit you hard. I have to see how big you are first before I determine how hard I hit you. But I would do something like, I would shake you up because I want to wake you up. So I would hit you harder if you were more tired. I would be softer if you were less tired. And if you weren't falling asleep, I wouldn't have to hit you at all. And I would praise you. Thanks for driving. You did a good job. So it's like that. Krishna's doing the same thing. Depending how much asleep you are at the wheel, that's how hard he's going to hit you. And if you stay awake, then why would he hit you? So rather than think it's, oh, is Krishna so cruel? Hey, stay awake when you drive. Then he won't have to wake you up. It's like, so that's his mercy that he woke you up. Why you push me so hard? Because you're falling asleep and I value my life. That's why. Actually, last week, I had not been sleeping a lot. I had things that I'm working on. When I have a lot of things to work on that I'm excited about and I don't have time, I just get up early. And which is great, but it's not good for driving. And I actually fell asleep like I didn't know it. And the roads in America, I don't know if you have them, they're what's the word? Perforated. So when you go off,
a speed guard.
Yeah, you have that, like, what do you call it?
I think it's called speed guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every country has maybe a different name. Yeah. So I actually fell asleep, and my wife was asleep also. And when I woke up, I was, I would say about this far from the divider, the cement divider, heading kind of towards it. And I thought I should get one of those cars that, automatically, devotees should have all those cars that automatically pull you back, because that way, when you don't sleep enough and you take too much prasadam, which is a deadly combo, and you're asleep at the wheel, the car will just it won't go over the line. Everyone should get a Tesla, because Teslas can actually drive themselves now. If you can afford it, get a Tesla. But anyway, I actually fell asleep. And it would have been great if Krishna came and slapped me in the face at that time, right? And you all know when Krishna slaps you in the face and when he saved you from doing something stupid, so you can thank him. So don't ever, like Prabhupada said, everything is Krishna's mercy. We have to see it that way. It's difficult because some things are painful and we don't understand it, but we have to see it that way because it is. And you want to hear something interesting? There's a verse in the third canto of Bhagavatam. I guess maybe verse third canto, chapter 23, verse 21 or something. And it talks about being fearless. And it describes that fear is caused by duality, meaning you see Krishna's not present. That's duality. There's Maya and there's Krishna, as opposed to seeing only Krishna. There's nothing material, there's only Krishna. There's not Maya and Krishna. There's not material and spiritual, there's only spiritual. So when you see there's not Krishna, that's where there's fear. And when you see only Krishna, there's no fear, which explains why Prahlad Maharaj was not fearful, because he only saw Krishna. Like everything that was happening, it's only Krishna. So how could there be any fear? It's only Krishna. And when there's not Krishna, there's fear. So I'm seeing there's not Krishna when actually there is Krishna. I just don't see it, so I'm fearful. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, very much. Especially the driver analogy. It's very, very satisfactory to me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, next time I see you, I'm going to punch you. So you remember.
You splash some cold water in my face.
Yeah. Something. I'll do something. I go, just check in, make sure you're not in Maya. I'm a representative of Krishna. Either he's going to hit you or I'll hit you.
Let's please
So,
do. Please do. And we have, I think, 2 or so more questions in the chat room.
okay.
It's from Bishwas. Says, Gurudev, the other day, you were telling that in Manga Arti at Alachua, mostly devotees above 60 years are taking part. Does that mean we are unable to attract younger generations in Krishna consciousness?
No, all the young people are in down the road about 20 miles.
Okay.
They're having their own Mangalarti. So that's where all the students live. And the people under 60 are all working. Anyway, yeah, you're working all day at some job. It's takes effort. Some of them are doing Mangalarti at home. It's just funny. Be nice if more came. They on a disappearance, you have like 30 people, 40 people, not 60. But on holidays, then the whole temple's full for Mangalarti. Like all of a sudden there's 200 devotees. And we're like, well, why don't you come every day? This is like amazing. But I can tell you this, Vishwas, if Prabhupada drove into Alachua today, tomorrow you would have about 1,800 devotees at Mangalarti. We don't have room for all of them. And things would be a lot different. It was always like that, so that's part of the, Prabhupada inspired us so much. And, to maintain that inspiration 50 years later, or whatever it is, 47, it's not easy. But I think a lot of those devotees who are Mangalartik, they've been there every day of their life. It's not like something new for them. That's just what they've always done. That's their lifestyle. Because they did it as young devotees. And they just kept doing it. But they are making devotees in America. Americans. But Alachua was different thing. A lot of people are working, going to school, staying up late studying, like my daughter. So, life happens. We need a t-shirt that says life happens. We can have one that shit happens also. I think on our website we did a shit happens t-shirt, but life happens also. No, we should say life happens, but it's better if shit happens. It's better. Life happens, but it's better when shit happens. Or, when life happens, make shit happen. Yeah, that's it. So when life happens, make shit happen.
All right, Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu, please give me unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu. All
Right.
glories to Prabhupada, all glories to all the humble devotees. Excuse me, I cannot put my camera on.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this very wonderful class. Listening to you, Prabhu, many things going on in my mind, and I just want to put them in a focus, and maybe you can help me also better. To be inspired in anything in life, you have to very much really love that thing. You have to, it gives you some satisfaction, something to look forward to. So the inspiration comes, right? Of course, many other factors are there, but love is one. And the expectation of, some higher expectation is there also. So like Krishna consciousness can be described in many ways. And I want to just put 2 or 3, and you would please let me know what you think Krishna consciousness is from among these different aspects. And why am I drawing these different pictures? Just to let us know what can inspire people or what can make people give their life more to the process. So like one, can we describe Krishna consciousness like a kingdom of God on earth? Is that what we are offering?
Yes.
No, let me finish, Prabhu. Or can we say Krishna consciousness is like a camp in a warring situation, like let's say oasis, and we're just trying to, quickly get out of here. And the third one, are we only promising the joy of Krishna consciousness after leaving this world? So which category do we really belong, that we really think we are inspiring people to focus on and to drive them towards that goal, whether tasting Krishna, God consciousness, or tasting kingdom of God on earth based on what we're doing, or we're just like in a camp trying to escape, or we are only giving people hope after this life? Which one we belong? Where do we belong here?
Ideally, the first one.
And that is kingdom of God.
You might belong in the second or third, depending on your consciousness, but the more advanced devotee will belong in the first, because they're not in the material world. So you have to at least have some devotees in the first category if you're going to spread a movement. If everyone's in the second or third, it's not going to work. It's like, come back tomorrow, the food will be better. It was all burnt today. They're not going to come back tomorrow. You guys don't know how to cook. So, we are offering sometimes number two, you're just, you're struggling and things are difficult and you're not experiencing it, but you keep going because you'll get there. And definitely number 3 would be a sign of improper practice or offenses. You're not going to get anything. So Prabhupada, he recognized number 2, but emphasized number 1. That the spiritual world is, it's here, it's within your heart. It's with, he said, our temple Like he said, this temple is not in Los Angeles. This temple is in Vaikuntha.
Wow.
He would say things like that. I just heard Prabhupada said, this is what he said, Prabhupada, there's Maya in the temple. Prabhupada said, there's Maya everywhere in the material world. So, so that's there, but it's like, there's the school, and then across the street, there's the pub. You don't have to go to the pub, you can go to the school. So my goal personally is to help devotees experience the happiness of Krishna consciousness and share that happiness with others, because I don't think we can spread Krishna consciousness any other way, and I don't think anybody can stay in Krishna consciousness any other way, just by promising something better after. And I think that would be a sign of improperly practicing it. I was also thinking, what you're saying is partially true, because we don't have complete experience of Krishna consciousness. We're not fully seeing Krishna in the deity. We're not fully seeing Krishna in the Bhagavatam, or in the holy name, or in prasadam, but we're seeing him somewhat. We're getting some experience. Something is there. So, Sriman Varaha Acharya. If you're in ecstasy, everyone around you will be in ecstasy. And that's the best preaching strategy in the universe. Ecstasy. The secret sauce for bringing people to Krishna consciousness is your own ecstasy, your own deep realization. That, right here, you're in the spiritual world, in the temple, right here, you're with Krishna. That's very important. You want to make any other comment?
Thank you very much. I'm very much satisfied, and it's what I'm expecting. And thank you for giving that perspective. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
Krishna. Well,
there's another. Abhinav has a similar question.
Yeah, in the chat room it says, whether you are aspiring for taste in chanting, ras in bhakti, is also love for Krishna, as I'm thinking for my happiness. This is from Abhinav.
It's not for your happiness. It's for Krishna's happiness.
That's happiness.
You don't have to you don't have to worry about your happiness. All you have to worry about is Krishna's happiness, and you'll be happy. So this whole idea that I have to try to be happy, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We've tried it. It's a waste of time. But we have to try for Krishna's happiness. We try for Krishna's happiness, then we'll be happy. So when I say I want to get a taste, or I want, my hairs to stand on end, all we're really saying is these are symptoms of a higher state of bhakti. And I'm saying, I want to love Krishna, and I'm chanting his name, and my hairs are not standing on end, and my voice is not choking, and so forth. So I'm not happy about that. I should be experiencing some deep emotion out of attraction to Krishna. So when I say, when will that day be mine? When I get a taste, it's not so, well, finally I'll be happy because I'm so miserable. Not exactly like that. It's when will I be on a higher level of bhakti? Because taste is the symptom that I'm on a higher level of bhakti. It's like, when will that day come when I can run a mile? Well, that's a symptom that I'm healthy. So it's a way of saying, when will that day come when I'll be healthy? Not like running a mile is the goal of my life. But the goal of my goal is to be healthy. So when will that day come when I can run a mile is another way of saying, when will that day come when I'll be healthy? When will that day come when I taste the nectar of the holy name is another way of saying, when will that day come when I actually become attached to chanting and attached to Krishna. That's what it means. And I think Abhinav disappeared just in time for me to answer his question. Wow.
I've heard this several times from different quarters that God will not burden anyone more than what the individual can bear. But I think that sometimes Krishna asks us to do things that we are incapable of doing. And one of such things is, to my little understanding, is that we're talking about fear of God and love of God. And Sri Krishna told the gopis that he's not very much impressed by devotion mixed with awe and reverence.
Yeah.
And at my level, it is impossible for me to serve Krishna any other way than with awe and reverence. So if my awe and reverence approach to Krishna is not attracting him, and therefore he is not blessing me as much as he probably should, then how do I really get the actual taste to love God? Because I cannot also fake it that there's no fear of God in me. So how does this work? That even though Krishna is saying that our reverence doesn't impress him much, but maybe at our level it does. Is that what it means?
It means that love impresses him. So the best translation for that statement is Patra Pushpam Palam Toyam, because we can do that. So, maybe you're not on the level of the gopis in spontaneous love, but you can offer a leaf, fruit, and flower with love. You can make the basis of every ritual you do your devotion, your sincerity, whatever love you have, knowing that Krishna is eating your love, not eating your sabji. Well, that's how we understand it. At the same time, Krishna is talking about a goal, and that goal is love of Godhead, and what he's talking about is a byproduct of love of Godhead, because it can't be that spontaneous. It's like you're going to go up to Krishna, to the deities tomorrow, and go, I don't like the way you've been dealing with Radharani, so, today you're going to fast. I'm not cooking. You can't do that yet. But on a higher level of bhakti, you could do that. And you could even talk to the deity and have a fight about it. And then you and the deity can sort out how you're going to deal with it. So no, you can't obviously come to that level now, but that statement shows us that that's the goal. That's where we're going. And so when the statement shows us where we're going and what the goal is, we have to translate that into how today, what does that mean for me? And that's why I say Patra Pushpam Palam Toyam. Offer me a leaf, fruit, flower, water with love. That's what it means for me. So like every statement we can't relate to, that, like you said, is impossible, I have to ask myself, how is it possible at my level to do this? And definitely, as Prabhupada said many times, and the essence of Krishna consciousness, offer with love. So that's what it means. It's for us, it's more of a philosophical, it's more of a tattva than a practice. And the practice is adjusted according to our realization. And so that way it becomes possible. So it's, if your guru says, I want you to love Krishna, you'll say, Gurudev, it's impossible. What he means is, I want you to do the practices that will develop love of Krishna. So I want you to do those practices that will bring you to the point of spontaneous love, because that's what will please Krishna. And one time there was a Vyas Puja ceremony for Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and one devotee got up and spoke. She wasn't reading anything, she was just speaking her heart, whatever she was feeling, whatever realization she's had. And then other people went and spoke, maybe not as emotional, maybe reading their offerings. And my wife said, this offering of this woman, he said, he likes that offering the most because it's most spontaneous and so forth. So we can be spontaneous on that level, right? With one another, with our spiritual master. So I always look for ways to translate within our context what these things mean. We have to do that. Otherwise, they're just like confuses us, like, or discourages us. I can't do that. So if I can't do that, let's just have ice cream and pizza and call it a day. You know, it's like, what's the option if I can't do that? But that's supposed to inspire. No, this is what bhakti is about. It's not about Om Narayanaya Namaha. It's not about that. That's what he's saying. Not that that's wrong or bad, but that's not the essence. The essence is, you know, the love with which you do everything. So I would just read that as like, without love, it's useless. Like Mother Teresa said, if you can't do great things with love, do small things with great, do little things with great love. Something like that. You know? So when you offer something to Krishna, it looks like you're offering some service or some bhoga or some flower, but you're actually offering your devotion, and your devotion is being placed on that offering. And if there's no devotion on that offering, you're offering nothing but that material substance. And Krishna doesn't want that. You think, oh, I made these beautiful puris and sabji. The devotees are going to praise me for it. They're going to say, I've never eaten a sabji like this. You're the best cook in the universe. And you were just cooking to be praised. And you put it on the altar and you go, hey, Krishna, you're going to like this because I'm the man. And Krishna like kicks it off the altar. Forget you, right? Because there's no devotion there. It wasn't the sabji and puris, they hold your devotion, or they hold, what do we say? Your cooking holds your consciousness. So when someone who's following Krishna consciousness who has bhakti and they cook, you taste, you get their consciousness, you taste it, even though it's offered. Who says Krishna is going to take it if it wasn't offered with bhakti and devotion, right? So that's it. That's how we relate, you know. You're not offering this thing or that service. That's not what you're offering. You're offering your heart and your love and your blood and your sweat and your service. And that's what Krishna's accepting.
Well, thank you. Anyone else with any question or something to share? Otherwise, I had one question from the purport. It's okay. It's
last question.
I'll put it up here. Same thing about fear, you know. Srila Prabhupada is saying the purport on the last instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, advises fully surrendering unto the Lord, leaving aside all other engagements or different processes for self-realization and liberation from material bondage. All different processes, thank Krishna, does not apply to me and to many devotees, because by Guru Krishna devotees' mercy, we are all very much stuck to Krishna consciousness. But
Yes.
leaving aside all other engagements. And so when I read this, I'm beginning to think, I'm a grihasta, I'm working so hard. And does that mean I have to quit working? And if I'm working, I've also heard that 50% of your income should be dedicated to serving Krishna.
Yeah.
And I am not in the position to fulfill that. If I should give 50% of my income to serving Krishna, then I will have no place to lay my head. So I would want you to please help guide us along this. I don't know whether it's understanding or misunderstanding of Krishna saying, surrender everything unto me.
Yeah.
Surrender.
So, yeah, it's quite simple. You know how difficult it is to work every day, to raise a family, to not be able to engage full-time in devotional service. But that's your dharma according to your ashram, and that's your surrender. So you are surrendered, because surrender means I accept that I'm a servant of Krishna, and I accept that there's no other God and no other process, and this will give me perfection. And so everything I do has some connection with Krishna. So therefore, I'm fully surrendered. You're looking at surrender as like a brahmachari, vanaprastha sannyas model. But, a mother's raising her kids to be devotees, she surrendered. Why? Because she sees her kids as Krishna's kids. So you see your family as Krishna's family, you see your house as Krishna's house. You see your money as Krishna's money, even you don't have enough to give 50%, but you utilize your money wisely, you don't spend it frivolously. So you're a servant. That's surrender. You're not doing any other kind of process to become Krishna conscious. So you are surrendered. It's just, we can always surrender more. Even the greatest devotees can surrender more. What to speak of us? So do what you can do. That thinking, I'm a grihasta, I'm working, I'm not surrendered, it's kind of, it can be a reflective, like, how can I do more? How can I be more surrendered? So that can be good. But the other side of it can be bad. It could be like you're doing well, but you're feeling you're not doing well. So you become frustrated and discouraged when you're actually doing the right thing. Then the next stage is you come home and tell your family, I'm not working anymore. I just want to surrender to Krishna. Well, how are we going to live? How are we going to eat? We're just going to depend on Krishna. Yeah. I don't know if they'll be too happy about that. Then you might be fully surrendered to Krishna because they'll kick you out of the house. Well, if you're not going to provide for us, why do we need you here? Right? So we had so many problems with this during Prabhupada's time. One second. We had so many problems with this misunderstanding of surrender. So everybody wanted to leave their family because that was the most surrendered thing to do. And then taking care of their family, you got to take your kids out to the park, the same park where you used to distribute books, and now you're like throwing a frisbee and a ball, it's like, what am I doing? I used to distribute books here. And then you're taking them to Disney World, and like, I used to distribute books outside Disney World. Now I'm going inside Disney World, spending like $100 with my kids. Oh, I'm a failure. No, now that's your duty. You chose that ashram, that's your duty. And that's the way you surrender. That's your surrender. Look at Prabhupada, very, very responsible grihasta. Also feeling like I could do more if I wasn't married, but I have this responsibility. So Prabhupada did not want us to give up our responsibilities. I mean, a few people whose wives were ready to let their husbands take sannyas and the men were qualified, that's a different situation. But in general, so it's a different kind of surrender. And it's kind of like the way you're thinking, it's like too late to think that way. That's how you think before you get married. Is it going to be, it's just not going to be surrender. What am I going to be doing and supporting, working? That's all the thought process before. Should I, shouldn't I? But once you do it, that thought process is destructive, undermines your consciousness. And it makes it difficult for you, and then it makes it difficult for your family because they'll feel like, oh, he just thinks we're all Maya. And then Prabhupada said, it's like you can't blame your lack of Krishna consciousness on any situation. As I told the story of Jayananda, he was in the hospital with leukemia, up every day at 3:00. He had like every reason to not have good sadhana. And he was preaching and holding classes and distributing books. And he's like dying. So you're dying. Well, that's a good excuse to like just lay in bed all day. So I think that was Prabhupada's point. You could have a reason. Oh, I'm a grihasta, I can't be Krishna conscious, whatever. I actually had a letter from Prabhupada. He said I was publishing and distributing back to Godhead when I was married. You just do what you can do. And the fact is, most people need to be married. So if they try to surrender, quote unquote, and they can't, it's not surrender. Because then they will surrender to Maya. I should surrender fully. Yeah, go for it, big boy. But if you can't do it, then that's not surrender. Especially once you're married, unless your wife says, get out of the house, hit the road and preach, and you feel you can do that, you're ready for it, then your surrender is to stay and support your family. And that's your surrender. And on that happy note, we're going to end class. Otherwise, we'll never end.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. We are very grateful and very much thankful and appreciative to your time, your love, and enlightenment that we've received from you today. And
you're welcome. My pleasure.
We hope to have you more and more. But I have one last request, Prabhuji, and that is, because there is no much time, I will not be able to play the video. But there is one of your god sisters who has left her body many years ago, Mother Ladini. Who left her body in West Africa, Liberia. And personally, and a few devotees of us from West Africa, we believe and we hope that, someday, if we get devotees like your very humble self, maybe you can help push this idea that at least we should not, ISKCON as an organization, should not forget Mother Ladini.
No.
And the least we could do is at least give a date for her in the Vaishnava calendar, like we once used to.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
that'd be great.
Remember who she was and her contribution to devotional service.
That's a great idea.
So we'll keep telling devotees to try to push this so that at least.
Why don't you talk to the Vaishnavi ministry?
Okay.
You know the Vaishnavi ministry? I think
I know. Yes. Yes.
If they can't help you, then just let me know. I can help.
Okay, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Thank you. So
you're welcome.
We're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant the loudest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation for the blessings Sri Guru and Krishna have given us today by
And your video, put your videos on so
Mahatma Prabhu.
we can
Jai.
actually see you.
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha
Purusha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo
Namo Namaha.
Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.